It's almost hard to believe it's been 7 years since the last new mainline Gears of War game, and as one of Xbox's marquee franchises, it seems a lot is riding on the upcoming Gears of War E-Day. I recently played roughly 10 hours of its revamped multiplayer, and yep, it sure is Gears of War. Even with that long gap, it feels both extremely familiar to play and refreshing for reasons you may not exactly anticipate. The meaningful changes I've noticed so far are perhaps more subtle, specifically the refined control scheme which shined in both the Versus and new Horde Siege modes I played. There's a lot to dig into, so gear up for my breakdown on how the big chunky boys from COG are back. I'm mostly going to dive into Horde Siege mode since that's where I spent most of my time, and it's also the most exciting thing that'll carry Gears E-Day's multiplayer component. But first things first, Gears E-Day features some important changes to how the series has traditionally controlled. The A button is fully dedicated to taking cover and moving around cover now, as well as dodge rolling and now sliding. While sprinting, aka the artist formerly known as Roadie Run, is now mapped to the left stick click. And the Y button is dedicated to vaulting, mantling, and jumping. Yes, you can actually jump in a Gears of War game. It took quite some time for me to rewire my brain since we've all been so used to the A button controlling all of these actions depending on the context in which you press it. But once I acclimated with the new controls, I can't really go back. Now, the PvP versus portion of the beta was pretty standard fare with 2 modes on 2 maps. Team Deathmatch works like it usually does in Gears games, where 2 teams of 4, COG versus Locust, have 15 cumulative lives to live, and once a team hits 0, their respawn gets disabled as each player gets 1 more life before elimination in that round. Conquest is the normal control point style mode where 2 teams battle for marked territory that moves across the map, as each point gets held down until one team holds it for long enough. The 2 maps in the beta, Market and Outpost, reflect the traditional symmetrical map design with close quarter shootouts dictated by lanes, sightlines, and cover spots to take advantage of and flank your opponents. Playing your angles and corners and exploiting the stickiness of the cover system is still very much the bread and butter of Versus mode, as is the usual shotgun meta. Basically, sprint then go into a slide as you hip-fire a Nasher into opponents before dodge rolling out of danger. It's not exactly interesting anymore and hasn't been for a while, but it's still decent fun to give it a whirl for a bit. And let's be honest, it wouldn't be Gears PvP without it, right?
One down!
However, what my time with PvP highlighted is that despite still feeling like you're controlling big-ass dudes slamming into cover, you're a lot more nimble thanks to the new movement system. I can pop in and out of cover quicker, vault over cover spots easily, and get into a sprint without much friction, loosening up the flow of Gears without losing its identity. Whereas before, I found myself fighting the control scheme itself where the A button would too often not do the thing I intended to do, especially in tense firefights and panic-induced situations where split-second decisions matter. There's also a little more emphasis on verticality since you have a dedicated jump and mantle action with the Y button. It may not sound like much, but in a game that's all about positioning and angles, it adds a dimension to the Gears combat formula for both what you can do as a player and how maps are generally designed when they don't have to be as flat. Okay, now let's get into the star of the show, the brand new Horde Siege mode. The series pioneered the wave-based PvE multiplayer formula with its Horde mode back in Gears of War 2, and it's been a staple ever since. But instead of loading into a confined singular level specifically built for a Horde mode, Horde Siege matches spread objectives and enemy waves across a much bigger map where everything happens at once. This is the city of Kelowna, where Gears E-Day's story takes place, and these are the ruins left in the wake of Emergence Day when the Locusts attacked. So right off the bat, there's a thematic coherence between the campaign story and the multiplayer mode itself. Your team isn't alone either. 3 teams of 4 queue into a Horde Siege match, and each team is given their own starting point and objective locations. The main task seems to always be defending a rig from waves of locusts, but teams have optional side objectives they can complete beforehand. These usually involve destroying a set of Locust assets as they spawn into the areas surrounding it, and you'll get additional rewards and in-match currency for gear and defenses. For the main objective, your team will decide when to initiate the fight, and once you do, you're locked into defending that position until you fend off all waves. You also have 3 styles of Horde Siege missions to pick from. Blitz gives you 1 main objective against 3 waves. Normal Siege gives you 3 objectives against 3 waves each. And Standard Horde gives you 1 objective against the full 10 waves. Take that! Regardless of mission type, you'll need to extract after the final wave to get the full set of match rewards. A helicopter will fly in and land at different locations while you try to survive an indefinite wave of even more locusts, which heightens the stakes and keeps you fighting until the very end of the match.
Look alive! We have an armored Brumac in play.
It's almost open world-ish and has the slight vibe of a persistent world as multiple teams are playing in any given instance in parallel. While you don't necessarily share objectives, you'll often see them fighting off their own waves of locusts in the distance or next door. It's cool to see, but it could be a nuisance when they drag their set of enemies toward you, especially when you're in between waves trying to prepare for the next one. In a pinch though, you can naturally get some assistance if another team wants to help mow down your locust, lest they become targets themselves. That also feeds into an element of emergent gameplay, if you will, since you never really know what positions you'll have to defend when queuing into a match, forcing you to adapt to the surroundings of each key area around Kelowna as objectives get assigned. I played about 6 hours of Horde Siege specifically, and I eventually got some of the same tasks, but it still felt fresh, especially in the normal Siege mission type, since part of the deal is running across Kelowna as you're fighting to survive each moment. I imagine some folks will prefer the more mechanical, clear-cut nature and defined spaces of the traditional Horde mode, but so far I feel like this is a more dynamic take that really complements what Gears has historically done well. As for the action itself, it's the tried and true Gears gameplay, and with my usual combo of Gnasher and Longshot working as well as I've always remembered. And tossing a frag into a locust hole to nip the wave in the bud is as satisfying as it's always been. The aforementioned qualities of the new movement system also shine here. Now I know the way you play a Horde mode as opposed to a versus match is very different due to the chaotic movement patterns of actual players, but for the purposes of PvE, repositioning and getting between cover feels smoother than ever, which is important because Locust Hordes seem to barrel down at you at an alarming rate in each wave. And in a way, it's more overwhelming than anything I've seen in previous Gears games. Handling fast-moving wretches and normal drones backed by the occasional boomer, it isn't too challenging, but when multiple berserkers and those new hulking tanks 5 times the size of a boomer pile onto you all at once, it's tough to manage.
Marcus is down!
Frantically repositioning and making the extra effort to revive down squad mates seemed to be the remedy, and once I came to grips with this, I was able to get through a full 10 waves consistently. Mechanically speaking, it's currently not quite as intricate as Gears 5's Horde mode in terms of character classes and the more strategy-focused gameplay elements like building barricades and turrets for defense. You still earn currency based on performance, but so far it's mainly for building turrets in predefined positions or restocking on ammo at supply caches. As a reminder, this is a beta, so the progression system, unlocks, and rewards are subject to change.
Mind if I do?
What I see now though is a more simplified class system with Assault, Breacher, Marksman, and Medic having just a tactical cooldown related to their specialty. But I am looking forward to the attachment and upgrade system for specific weapons as I get deeper into it when the full game comes out. Despite putting in about 10 hours in the beta, there's still plenty more I want to see and do, which isn't something I would have necessarily said about a Gears game in the past. This has been the longest gap between major entries, so hopefully the wait results in a multiplayer suite that has the legs to sustain the series for the long term. And we won't have to wait long since Gears of War E-Day fully emerges on October 6th for Xbox Series X and S and PC. For more on the latest games surrounding Xbox, check out my review of Halo Campaign Evolved, or tune into our weekly podcast, Unlocked, where we had a lengthy discussion about the Gears E-Day beta. And for everything else, stick with IGN.
All accounted for? Good. Control, this is KR-80. We're heading back to base. Excellent work out there. Time for a little R&R. You earned it.